Hello, everyone. Namaskar. Today on the YouTube channel and on other platforms, we have with us Vinay GB sir, who is the founder of InsightsIAS. And he has been instrumental in not just my UPSC journey, but in the UPSC journey of hundreds of toppers over the last 8 to 10 years. And welcome, sir. It's a really great time to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abhijeet. It's my pleasure to be here.
Right, sir. So, we'll begin with a very basic conversation point, which is something that is relevant to people who are preparing for 2023 also. So, sir, what do you think is the best way to go forward for Prelims 2023 preparation?
Yeah, so I have kind of unconventional, ideas and thoughts. Whenever I tell people something, my strategy, just now we have 80 days before prelims. My thinking is, molded over the years, 8 to 9 years, based on one factor. To succeed in this examination, the component of practice must be very strong. So whatever strategy I recommend, it is, the pivot is practice. So what I recommend is it should be through reverse engineering, kind of reverse engineering. And I recommend candidates to not to run after textbooks and, revise it multiple times. And I mean, spend entire day, entire week only reading the textbook or revising the textbook. Be supplemented with solving like hundreds of MCQs every day. And the time should be divided between, GS1 and now almost equally divided between CSAT and
GS1.
Yeah. So earlier it used to be, least importance was
Yeah.
Now I think that era is gone now. Anyone who ignores CSAT will be suffering here. So see, in January I was telling people solve 100 questions every day.
Okay.
So now we're in March. So what I'm recommending is, do minimum 200 questions every day. And say these people are, they get stressed up. Okay, you're telling me 200 questions, so it takes 4 hours to solve them. And then what about revising them? When do I revise them? So what I suggest is go systematically. Let's say 5 to 6 days for polity, and ideally I recommend one should start with polity and then move to economy, and then geography, environment, SNT, and then modern history. Keep your ancient, medieval in the end, art and culture. So this is my recommendation. So in the beginning, 5-6 days, if somebody solves 200 questions every day, on average, I usually suggest 2,000 questions for polity and economy. So now I think they can do 1,200 to 1,400 questions, right? And first 3 days, it should be only last 25 years question papers, nothing else. So try to do them in and out, each and every question, every option within the question should be carefully read about, if possible, So try to remember all important facts that are there in the previous year questions, and then followed by revision of basic books. So I think basics must be very strong. People jump to.
Which are the basic books that you recommend?
So I thoroughly recommend NCERT books. So I think prelims can be cleared only by referring to previous year question papers and NCERT textbooks, and any standard notes they might have made or they might be having right now, right? Instead of going behind bulky books, right? So the cost benefit I think is not worth spending 10 days on Lakshmikant right now, 2 times. I don't think accuracy rate can be 80% and above when they're solving, let's say. So I think this is my suggestion. So 5 days they can do something like this. First base year question, then go after any standard questions available, our test series and any standard test series, any standard question bank they have, and then they can continue with same approach. 5 days means per subject, around 30 days for one revision, then another 30 days for second revision. So last 20 days could be for third revision.
Okay.
So something like this they can follow.
So
we have around 75 days plan. Every year you might be knowing that every year reported. So they can download the timetable and they can follow that.
So I think something very similar we've been doing for a while now. We give out a very detailed Excel sheet to people, which is basically a Google sheet that they can download and modify, which is sort of something that I learned from Insights, which is sort of like something, like no matter what I say or do, there is a sort of debt of gratitude that I have towards Insights and your initiative, sir. And like anything that we've started with UPSCprep.com has in a way learned from the things that have been done by a lot of the great institutions.
It is very rare to hear something like this. It's very kind of you to say something. It requires lots of courage and humility to say these things nowadays. Yeah.
So being very humble, being the humble person that I am, I will obviously take that.
It's very rare actually. I don't see people accepting or acknowledging something like that. So we have seen many people getting influenced. Even I was influenced in the beginning. So at that time we didn't have many websites. Brunal was there and Today was there. And I used to follow them. This was like 2006, 7, 8 in that era.
Yeah.
So even I got influenced. But then I think new ideas came. I'm sure you will have your own new ideas. And you will set benchmarks eventually.
So I think we're moving into a different line of conversation. But I feel that any new initiative that comes up naturally borrows quite a few things from its predecessors. Okay. It's not that we start anything in a vacuum. We exist or we start in an area which is already influenced by a lot of the great institutes or what some of the great people who educators in this arena who have been sharing their thoughts, and that sort of influences us. And over time, what happens is that we learn to implement it in our own way, which I think is what you did with Insights, that Mrunal and GK today have their own way of going about things, but Insights was very different.
Correct.
Insights came about and started something very new. So, sir, I would also love to know your UPSC journey. Like you said, you started 2006-7. How many attempts did you give? What was the, outcomes?
We had then, 4 attempts. And in those 4 attempts till 2011, we had, optional subject in prelims as well.
Yeah.
So audience can remember.
Yeah, so those of you who do not remember, I think this was a change that happened when I was in first year of college, that CSAT was introduced and optional was removed from the prelims paper. And there were 2 optionals before that in mains. That was reduced to 1 optional with 4 general studies papers. So sir was from that era.
Yeah, right. So I started, I was doing MSc and then I quit MSc Organic Chemistry I was doing. I thought I was not good in the subject and I didn't like the way they were teaching. So that is a different journey. I left it and started preparing for UPSC. And somebody had influenced in our school, a teacher, English teacher especially, that, prepare for something like this. So at that time, when I started, we had brilliant tutorials, nothing else. And then, this was Competition Success Review magazine. So these were the 2 sources available. And I started from my village, far away from all the cities. And, at that time, again, internet also very rudimentary. Totally clueless. I didn't have guidance, brilliant tutorials and all. They had questions and everything, but nobody were telling, how to prepare for the examination.
Yeah.
How to approach each and every paper and each and every stage also. So there was this assumption that this exam is like a vast ocean and had to see everything. What happened after a few months into preparation, I think I got lost. I was always curious person. I always loved, reading different kinds. I used to love.
That's also pretty visible from the bookshelf that you have behind you. You have all kinds of books, so far as I can see.
Compared to you also. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So I had posted a picture of that also in my room. Lots of books. I don't remember how many of them I read. And because I read most of them, that is why I failed this examination eventually. I didn't stick to basics, right? So there's this notion that, this exam is all about advanced stuff, advanced reading, you have to read standard books. So I kept doing that, suffered in basics. I cleared prelims. I didn't write mains because I didn't have the courage to write with chemistry. I put as chemistry option. I didn't think about it.
What was your second optional?
Kannada literature. So at that time geography, and then I changed to second attempt Kannada literature, and then I had geography in prelims. Right? So geography was pretty easy. I was able to clear. And then in the second attempt, I again cleared. I wrote mains. I didn't clear. And then third attempt, somehow I went till interview. So by then I had landed in a job, Panchayat Development Officer. It's a Group C job at Panchayat level. And that kind of didn't allow me, there was a leave problem, superiors. So I was not able to manage studies, and there was no advantage in mains marks. So I had narrowly cleared mains by 2 marks, but I got 210 in interview, but missed the rank by 3 marks. I put that, marks card.
Yeah, I've seen, sir.
Pinned it also. Yeah.
I think you had 210 in interview.
210 in interview. Yes. Yeah. So and then fourth attempt, I thought I'll skip the attempt, but then they introduced CSAT 2011. So that was the point, where I failed my prelims in my fourth attempt. So that was the final attempt, and
but then I think 2015-16 there was an extra attempt given to people who
had extra. There is an interesting story about it. By then I had started. In 2013, I started this blog, and 13 onwards it was picking up. 13 June onwards, I started this unique initiative, like daily answer writing challenge, secure. So nobody had done that before. That introduction to answer writing. Gaining courage from that, I started offline in 2014 January. That's a different story. But Rahul Gandhi gifted us, extra attempts. At that point, it was Rahul Gandhi who actually gifted 2 attempts and increased 2 years. So I was eligible, but by then, it had settled in my mind. I had tasted little success in the very first batch. Not the result, but the way it was going. I was seeing the progress. In a way, anonymously, I applied for that attempt, and I cleared prelims like hands down, because I was the one who was preparing questions and everything. So and a lone man army. But mains, again, there was absolutely no answer writing, no preparation. I went and wrote. I think by 7 marks I missed the interview, and then I decided that this is the end of my UPSC journey, and so my time should be dedicated to. My time and experience should be dedicated to aspirants. So this is briefly, how it went.
So it sort of also combines with how Insights started in the beginning, because I think you started Insights in 2013, like you were saying, and 2015 you started your first offline batch.
No, 14 January we started. In the very first batch, I had got I had got so much interest, from students to be part of that journey. I chose only 40 students. There was an entrance exam for that. I didn't have courage to take so many people. That was the issue. It was not that I didn't want many students. I was literally scared, what if hundreds of people come and, if I don't manage them well. So I thought, I assessed myself. I thought 40 students could be managed well. And out of 40, eventually I got All India rank 8 and All India rank 26, rank 34. So it went really well. And by that success, I got even more emboldened and, started looking at this initiative called Core Batch. I heard somewhere like you were also interested in that. I don't know. I think you had...
I had messaged you multiple times, but so I think this is one of the things that I came to appreciate much later on in life, probably a couple of years ago. I had messaged you multiple times, actually. Like I'm very interested in this batch. And why? Because I'd already had a rank by then. And the case had already happened. And I was in my head that, I'll blast the way through. And I know that this is a good place to be for this kind of an initiative. And so I figured that it would be very helpful for me to get in there. But obviously, you never responded to my, messages. I was very angry at that point. I remember that, like, who's this damn guy? I'll tell him one day that, bloody hell, but like, I'll get a rank and then I'll tell him, like, you don't like XYZ, whatever it was.
I think like that, so many toppers are there, with so much anger like that.
I know. And I think I would have lived with that anger if I had gotten a rank the next time around. So the next time around, I came in the reserve list. That was a big of a shock, and because I got embroiled in the case again, so I had a lot of time to self-introspect. And then eventually when we started UPSCprep.com in 2021 and 22, then I was flooded by similar messages as I had been sending to you. And then I finally realized that it's very difficult to go through each and every one of them. You would love to, because in the end that is what you're trying to do here, that you're trying to help as many aspirants as you can. But sometimes the incoming messages are just too many, and in that, a lot of good messages, a lot of genuine messages sometimes get lost. So I think
I used to regret, not replying to some of them. Then as time passed and, as I myself evolved, then started to realize, we have limited capacity to respond. We cannot make everyone happy. We cannot. First, I have to be happy myself. We leave certain people unhappy, but it is not intentional any day. It is mostly unintentional and some kind of ignorance, again, not indifference. So it has happened and it keeps happening every day. And how do I compensate is by doing justice to the students that have already come with us. Right. So give more attention to them. I think make these people happy so that somebody who has got angry that we didn't respond. So maybe in some way it gets compensated.
So I think
and eventually these people find other guides, other ways. It's not like it is road is ending for them.
And I think I agree with you, sir, completely over here. For instance, in our first year of operation, also we enabled, we say 24 ranks, but eventually 5 of them were from our mains batch.
Very good. And
this was from a mains batch of about 35-40 people. Very good. I think we were also very glad and we were also very happy, and a very similar sort of a situation happened that there are these people who have been very intimately associated with us are then recommending us to other students and aspirants. And my first question is, why can't you guide them? That, I would like to do justice to the people who have already enrolled in our courses, who are already with us, because there is something like a little too much sometimes. Sometimes things get out of hand, and sometimes, you have to learn to respect your own limitations, just like you were saying that, first you have to be happy, you have to be disciplined, only then you can impart that.
So then what I decided is, I started, increasing my team, expanding my team basically. So I started picking good people, training them who could almost equally, guide well. So I think something that if there are unhappy students, what we can do is that we have to spend, take another mentor or another member who is more trustworthy. You might have realized it by now.
Yes, sir, definitely. And I think one of the first few people that worked very closely was Gagan GB.
Acha, he was my student.
So Gagan is also one of the people who is with us in our case in Supreme Court.
Acha. Very good.
So, and we've been very closely associated with
Gagan. Yeah, I know. Correct. Yes.
So, like, that's the thing that, when I think about my UPSC journey, part of it has been peppered through and through with things that Insight was doing. But again, I think the more interesting aspect of it, the bigger idea behind it was that it was a fresh approach. It talked about something very different from what people had been doing in the market at that point. Because in the market at that point, I remember I went to an institute and I regret going to that institute because I wasted almost 10 months of my life. What I gained out of it was probably just some friends. That's something good to gain. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I went there for a very different purpose, and I don't think I gained anything in that regard. So, like, what do you think about the, constantly evolving nature of the exam and hence guidance?
Yeah, this is one of the most dynamic exams we have in India, right? By virtue of the demand of the service itself, and also the way the syllabus itself is vague and not completely clear, in a way that it's not very detailed, for students to give something expected. So there is an element of uncertainty, but again, so we know it's certain in a way. But when it comes to evolution, what I see is that most of the coaching institutions have not evolved with the examination, with the demand of the examination. And they are stuck with their own old way of conventional. Whenever I go to Delhi, we receive students. They come and keep complaining about other institutions. I usually don't entertain. I just ask them feedback. Okay, what is wrong? So one constant complaint is that the teachers are not accessible.
Hmm.
They promise mentorship, they don't get it. And lots of things are promised, sometimes they're not delivered. But beyond that, the biggest problem is this spoon feeding approach. The teachers come, they teach, they give notes, and they tell, read only my notes, then only you can crack the examination, and then they vanish. But what is most unfortunate is that why students keep enrolling to such kind of courses in big numbers to institutions. So I think the students themselves need to be aware of the very nature of the examination. It is through their efforts ultimately they are going to crack the examination. So you, me, and all the institutions are mere facilitators. But while being a facilitator, there should be a kind of awareness among the students that who is evolving, who is more updated, who is more experienced in the field, right? Who is actually delivering honest results, right? So now you have seen, everywhere, every institution claims hundreds of results, right? So behind me, I think you can see there is a photograph, top of me. It was like felicitation we did, 127 toppers came, and we were honest in telling that, some of them were only interview guidance students, some of them were Prelims students, some of them were OGP students. Like we clearly told, and mention it on the website also. So we don't like to say that, those who came for interview were part of our, classroom program or, fundamental course.
So this is also, like you mentioned, that's one of the, most endemic problems within this entire ecosystem. Correct. And this is something that I also mentioned a couple of minutes ago, where I said that, we claimed 24 ranks because part of them were from our interview batch. But from our mains batch of 40 students, we had 5 people in the interview. And of those 5 people, 4 got ranks. So again,
we have to be honest. I think, when we are honest, we appeal to serious, sane students. So who are not, who are actually very serious about the examination. And I think as an institution, we evolve when we attract quality students.
And I think quality students are attracted first and foremost to the honesty that, you're not promising any miracles. Correct. Because like you said, that students need to know what is happening in the ecosystem. Like they need to know who is more updated. But that's the, I've thought about this. That's the biggest problem that exists out there, which again is something that I feel is evolving over time, that the new aspirant who comes in, they're absolutely clueless.
They go by advertisements, they see full page advertisement,
they see Vision IAS ka full page, they see Next IAS ka full page. They're like, 100 mein se 95 toppers they have, obviously they're doing something great. Then next day Wajiram will come, everybody's claiming those same ranks. And people are also aware that, this person was there also, here also, here also. All that you have to do is keep 3 days ka newspaper side by side and you'll see it all. But it's only once you get there, it's only once you get inside the ecosystem that you talk to your peers, that you talk to other people, that you get to know that, there are other things that are going on. And like you said, sir, there were so many people who joined our courses because obviously we had a lot more affordable courses, and we worked on a lot of the core principles that you talked about, that there should be no spoon feeding. Good. Because if I'm spoon feeding you, then your brain never really worked. And if your brain never really worked, you have just memorized a certain number of things, and as soon as you go beyond that area where you had memorized everything, you will be at a loss of words. Right. So in that sense, we had some students, like you said, who came and said wahan pe to aisa kara rahe hai. I'm like, I can't control what they're doing over there, but what I can tell you is you should do this. Correct. And like you said, I think mentorship has become one of the buzzwords. I also went to Delhi a couple of months ago. Me and my partner, we were just strolling around, and everywhere that you go is and mentorship by faculty. And anybody you talk to, they're like, no, there's no time. The faculty is not even available. So I think that is also something that we try to change a lot, that we are accessible to our students. We have something called a doubts day, right? So again, I also wanted to innovate. I also wanted to contribute in some way. So we started with something called a doubts day, wherein if you joined any course with us, we have a single day, Saturday, where you can ask me doubts related to general studies prelims, general studies mains, CSAT, or sociology, because me and my team are very, very heavily towards sociology. So the entire point of that was that if you join a prelims course, you join a mains course, you join a test series, you join anything, you get access to that day. Because what we want to ensure is that, if you have a doubt, it's not like I'll only guide you in sociology and you'll be through. I need to be accountable for the rest of your preparation too, in some minor way, not completely, because obviously that is the sort of, transactional nature of the relationship, but we would like to go above and beyond that minor transaction. So what do you think, sir? I think because Insights has been one of the people or one of the institutes which has been doing this a lot over the last 10 years, not just like one or two.
We didn't use the word mentorship, that is what I was doing, when you started in 14, 15, 16.
You didn't call it that, but you were doing it.
Yeah, right. And then we introduced in 17, the word mentorship. So now we see in Delhi everywhere in the last 2 years. And we have around our own nearly 75 mentors we have, right? Both for online and offline. What with respect to the relationship with the student, I believe it should be thoroughly professional, and it should also be driven by some amount of empathy and concern for their both result and well-being. What we do here is that I ensure that so even after the completion of the course, we are accessible to them, right? So in Delhi, that is what I have seen. They are driven away. Once the course is complete,
get out.
Yeah, they are not entertained. They are not allowed to talk. Even when they are there during the course, it doesn't happen. And after the course, though, you cannot ask them. Our institution is like an open house, like Dharma Chatra, like some kind of, students come here and we keep a classroom open. In Delhi also, we have done the same thing. So anybody who has joined OGP, we told, you use the classroom. You don't have to pay for library fees or anything. So it is kept open from morning 6 to evening 11:30. You can sit and read. So this is important because the moment we see students as, just our customers, right? I think that is the end of our success.
Yeah.
It might be getting, big money for some institutions, but I think in the long term, I won't be having that satisfaction. And the students who use your and our services, I think will carry forward good memories. They will be satisfied also. So I think they'll keep spreading good word about you and your institution. So that is why I don't spend on advertisement. You will never see big page advertisement. So only advertisement I rely on the word of mouth. You do good to people, and they will take care of the rest of the thing.
So because I've also been reading a lot of this startup literature which is lying right over here, and I'm sure you're what do you say, aware of Y Combinator?
I heard about it, but I haven't read that. I don't know what it's about.
So Y Combinator is simply an accelerator for startups that you have an idea, they'll help you figure out what is the best way to implement it and all of these things. And one of the founders of Y Combinator is a person called Paul Graham.
Okay.
And Paul Graham is absolutely great. He's also one of the people that I've always sort of learned a lot from. And he said one of these things, that if your users, if your students, if your if the people who are engaged with you, they're the ones who are telling others about you, you really don't need to spend anything on advertising, because that is the best advertising that you can give, that you put your 100% over here.
Correct.
And that is also
something I learned through experience.
We learned from your experience, because we saw you doing it for so long. So recently,
but we are not perfect in that. I have to admit that we are not doing it perfectly, but there is this desire, intention, to do it correctly, to do it consistently. But more or less, I think we have succeeded in that.
And I think one of the core factors underlying when you have this kind of an intent is that you don't want returns for everything. You don't want to monetize everything. What you want is to deliver just value. If it helps somebody, sure, you can come and check out some of our courses. But other than that, most of the material is available always for free. And this used to be one of the things that I used to do on Twitter a lot, that I'd simply tell people that if you're in shortage of test materials, all that you have to do is just like free UPSC materials, Google.
Yeah, right.
And you'll get so much material that you'll be flooded by material. And then your problem will be that, I have too much material. What do I do?
Correct. So, and then Telegram channel, there are dedicated Telegram channels, every video, every institute, everything is out there.
So, like, not just that, think of I think, sir, that's what happens every time. That is how, the exam evolves. That is how the ecosystem evolves. That is how everything step by step cheeze chalti hai. So initially what happens is that UPSC came out with a new format of the exam, right? So suddenly there was a new way to approach it. So I think it was in the year 2013 or 14, 15, first time around when
13.
You guys started new pedagogy. That is around the same time when Vision IAS came out with something, the Prelims 360, right? And Mains 365. So those were also revolutionary products in their day and age. Because I had so many people come up who were college seniors, who were friends, known, and they'd be like, Hambas, I just read this and I went to the exam and done. But because of that, that has spawned an entire industry. So now there are so many of like Mains 365s, so many of these compilations that you don't know which is the best compilation anymore. And because of that, then they'll come out a new set of compilations which are even shorter, even more concise. People will flock to that. And because of that, the industry will then move that way. And then now everybody's coming out with more and more concise content. So it always becomes a new problem that we have to deal with. But at its essence, I feel it is always the same problem, which is a problem of plenty and focus. Correct. That you always have a lot more resources than you could possibly ever read, and you shouldn't either. And you're just looking for a new signal within all the noise.
You just have to be faithful to any one source. Any new source is coming, it is just another small variant of existing source. It is not entirely new. There is nothing. They might have made it concise, or they might have made it bulky. And for example, if somebody is following your source, so if they stick to that particular source, right? So probability of success is very high, right? So instead of getting deviated, so it should be coupled with strong focus on basics. What people do when so much material is coming, they ignore the basics. As I said in the beginning, they don't read NCERT, they don't read the basic concept, whatever be the source. They get carried away with these materials. It consumes lots of time, and it comes at the cost of their basic understanding. And you might have heard this complaint in prelims. I got difficult question right, silly question wrong. The problem is mainly because of misplaced priorities. So this is a cycle. I mean, the institutions will keep coming up with new material. We do, you do, everyone will keep doing it. But an aspirant should be intelligent, smart. So I think smartness is nothing but using. I mean, it is saving time. Going through optimum resources.
I think, sir, one thing that I've always wanted to ask you is, how do you teach somebody to think critically?
So yeah. Basically, it starts with asking critical questions. First one should have the ability to ask critical questions. So to do that, one should be innately curious, right? So I think behind critical thinking, there is an element of curiosity. So if you're not curious, you haven't explored the world enough. Right? So when you're curious, you will read like myriad of books. You will love diversity. You won't be satisfied with something. And when your mind is open, when it has imbibed, so many things from so many sources. So I think that is the beginning of critical thinking. And again, the second point with critical thinking is objectivity. You need to be objective. The critical thinking is nothing but looking at both sides of the argument. Right? Ability to see all the dimensions of the issue or argument. So I think. Then the third point, I think, having qualitative empathy also, I think, to some extent. So if you don't empathize,
like not for others, but for yourself, first and foremost, I feel.
Yeah, first and foremost, exactly. So then you don't see the viewpoint of others, right? In critical thinking, lots of exposure to new ideas, reading lots of stuff, reading actual newspaper, not the summaries and all these videos and other things. Reading hard copy of newspaper, and understanding through your own efforts in the beginning. And then at the pinnacle of this, I think writing in your own words, right, about any thoughts you get, will eventually make your thinking more critical and analytical.
Is there any process to speed this up?
So I that's what we used to do that as part of the UPSC preparation. In first and second batch, I used to make them read NCERT and standard textbooks on their own without any coaching, nothing. Read and give lots of questions on them to solve both MCQ and answer rating. If it is as part of the exam preparation, I think this is what you have to give a timetable which forces people to read standard sources and then come and apply their own mind in the examination, without having gone through any ready-made sources, right? I think with respect to examination, this and lots of discussions also, we need to open. We need to, I think that is what our questions should do. They give them another extra dimension about the issue, to think about. Doing it repeatedly, I think, will speed it up. And at the foundation of this is, the very education system, I think, it should start from there. It is very difficult to train someone after the graduation, right?
But if I ask you, when did you finally come around to the realization that, I can think critically now, or I can look at both of those sides? Because for the longest time for me, what used to happen was in the guise of being objective, I would not take a stand. Okay. Right? Because that's the easy way to go about it. There's also this, there's also that, there are pros and cons, therefore I'm here. Right in the middle, I'm not taking a side. So how do you then progress from, critical thinking to the next step, which is you still have to take a side? How do you take that side?
So this, I had a little bit of critical thinking. I never knew that. And only started when I started, interview guidance. When I was guiding students to think critically. I mean, in the interview, you need to be objective and brutally honest in your views, your thoughts. So that is when I started going back and thinking about the issues. Whether it can be sensitive issue like hijab or temple entry, can be agri legislation. So any sensitive issue. So I started critically thinking only 3 years ago. I mean, to be honest.
Right. I think very similar.
Consciously started 3 years ago. And how do we do this is, I have my own approach, I don't know, in psychology, there may be a different term. In my recent interaction, I said it like a sandwich approach, something like. In the interview, in the beginning, you start with, saying constructive thing about the issue you're discussing about, a positive about it. And then you come to the critical part, right? So you have started with a positive part, and then you start, putting all your criticism in a more objective way, without any emotions, in a more detached, way, rather than going emotional about it. And you should not be conclusive about them also, even if you're critical. And then in the end, again, lacing it with, positive. For example, it can be like agri legislation or something. We can start with, it was a progressive idea or something. It was need of the hour, considering, the requirement of agriculture and our aim of doubling income, something like that. But then it had certain issues. You can list out 3-4, and then in the end, again, telling that there were honest efforts made. So pricing one of the stakeholders. It can be government, or it can be farmer, it can be civil society, anyone. So you were both critical. At the same time, you're honest to your conscience also here.
Yeah.
Right. So it is not like you're balancing your answer, 3 plus points, 3 minus points, and ending that it is a double-edged sword. It is it has demerits, merits. So I discourage that kind of approach in interview.
So obviously, sir, I thought about all of these things, and like you're saying, it is when you're actually guiding aspirants for the interview, because the people who are getting to the interview are already very sharp people.
Correct.
And they need they don't need a lot of guidance a lot of the time. because a lot of them have figured the basic fundamentals of what's going on by themselves. But sometimes you need to course correct. And this, I feel that the best candidates that I've met have been very clear on their values.
Correct.
Which is something that I often notice about you also, that no matter what is going on, you're very clear on your values. Right? So once you're clear on your values, then the choice becomes easy for you. Right? There can be pros and there can be cons, but if my core value is more on this side, then this side becomes the way that we're going forward. And in that, there needs to be a consideration for what are the social values, what are the larger constitutional values, and there can often be a conflict between these different sets of values.
Correct.
So if you are clear, which is the value that is in trouble over here or in any question, then I feel you can very well go about answering any question. And you do not have to be very afraid of, if I'm criticizing the government or not. You talk about the value. Was this value upheld? Right? So in that sense, obviously, this is a very, very abstract.
What I have been telling students is that it is not about pro-government or anti-government. It's about your values and your conscience, as you rightly put it.
Yeah.
So do you have more arguments to justify your stance? Right. Go with it. Doesn't matter pro or against government. If you can endlessly defend your stance, right? So without going nervous about it, without losing your mind about it, so then stick with it.
That's also one of the things that I feel happens, that if somebody's counter questioned on one of their opinions or values, they get very defensive.
Correct.
They suddenly are on the back foot and they're like, no, that's like, it's a very reasonable thing to say. It's a very, justified thing to say. And what I tend to tell such aspirants or candidates is ki, by that counter question, the scope of the argument has expanded.
Correct.
And therefore, you also have the opportunity to expand its scope further. You can add a new dimension. You can give me for example, one of the candidates that I was recently talking to, he said that in a mock interview, he was asked, which are the 3 most corrupt political parties in Uttar Pradesh? He was from Uttar Pradesh. And, that seems like a very politically charged question. Correct. And he was very, very, afraid about, should I say this? Should I name this government, that government? What do I do? I said, if you had to measure, how would you measure it? He thought about it and he said, sir, every year there is a list by a lot of these NGOs which essentially says which parties are fielding how many candidates with criminal records. Right. So I said, why don't you talk about this instead? Why do you have to name them 1, 2, 3? You can say, sir, this is how we can measure. I'm not sure which are the ones which have the most criminals at present, but that can be checked. This is the metric that you can go about it. So again, what happened is,
that's a very good idea.
So they stepped out. They went a level back and they looked at how can this be measured. And then it is no longer a problem of naming the top 3 corrupt parties, because you've changed the scope of the question itself.
Correct.
So this is something which is why I asked that entire question of, how do you teach somebody critical thinking? Because critical thinking, a lot of the time I also feel, is to be able to step back and then look at what are the different angles and sides. What is good performance? What is bad performance? And the person who has learned that, and I am so glad sometimes to see candidates who are 22, 23 years old, who are absolutely brilliant and sharp. I sometimes get envious. I shouldn't, but like you said, I started critical thinking a lot later in life, around the age I was 26, 27. These people are doing it at 22. So sometimes I get, if I had been thinking that clearly, that early, maybe life would have been very different. But then I think, life is already very different from what I ever imagined it being.
Correct.
So, sir, what's your take on taking life as it comes?
About it, I really thought about it, so finally I come to the conclusion, you might have heard about, just go with the flow of life. So you be ambitious inside, that ambition should be there, whatever be the nature of the ambition. But when you are dealing with life in real time, right? So I think the focus must be on your own well-being and well-being of people around you. rather than about a distant goal, worrying about it a lot. So I think you should be just focused on the present. All this so-called mindfulness and all. See, I think I started knowing about them after I started realizing, in my own life about these concepts and all. So I try to live life as simple as possible, but that doesn't mean away from materialism and all. I love good cars and other things, but the thing is, keeping life simple doesn't mean ascetic life. Renouncing everything. It is about respecting yourself, people around you, practicing the so-called the values that you have consistently. And without complicating life, so don't hurt others, don't alienate others, don't create any friction or tension in your life. Just let it flow freely without any complications.
So again,
that is my idea of life.
Again, this is something that I feel that only once you've experienced it, once you've achieved a certain measure of success, I think we were also talking about this before the video started rolling, that when we have achieved a measure of success, we are sort of more comfortable talking about these things.
Correct.
When we are in that struggle period, when we're in that zone where we are trying and pushing against so many things at the same time, we're pushing against societal expectations, we're pushing against our own expectations, our peers' expectations. So sometimes it's easy to lose sight of who you are. Correct. And I feel that as soon as somebody loses sight of who they are, why they are doing this, like what is it that they want to do, then it's very easy to get flooded, and then it's very easy to go sidetracked, off track, which is sort of what happens when I'm getting envious of 22-year-old candidates who can think much better than me, because they're on a very different journey.
Correct.
I have to live my own journey, and if I start comparing, if I start doing all of these things, I have like all day, every day, so many examples to just make me sad. And I feel social media is absolutely brilliant in doing that, making us feel not our best.
Correct.
So like, what is your take on social media during preparation? Because you already mentioned that Telegram is one of those great places where people can get a lot of those resources for each and every institute, each and every subject. Everything is available.
Yes. So before we move into that, the observation you made regarding it is easy to say when we are successful. What I've noticed is that those successful people, it is easy to preach, talk about it, but it is very difficult to practice even when you're successful, right? Yeah. And for most of the people, it gets into head, and they act differently, different kind of people. Secondly, doesn't mean that successful people do not have difficulties in life. It can be a personal friend, it can be a professional friend. So we also have difficulties, they keep coming. Now, what the success has brought about is some kind of wisdom, evolution in our own thinking, the way we approach life, right? So it is not the material success that has given us, this kind of thinking. It is the experiences we have gone through, so that has made it possible. And coming to your, social media part, so it has helped immensely. I think we are, because of social media, and without internet and without social media, I don't think we would have really grown into what we are today. And our tests used to be shared on social media, and in the beginning it used to hurt, and then I started encouraging it in a way that showing a blind eye towards it. I thought it as another advertisement. And coming to the present social media, where you are there, I am there on Twitter, and so I think we should use it responsibly. We should not use it just for the sake of gaining more likes and more engagement with the users. I think here also we need to act responsibly. I feel that in the beginning I also used to get carried away. So there was this impulsive nature to post something, and then again, past few months I have realized what I need to post is something that what I really believe in, rather than just for the sake of appeasing people, or appealing, or something like this. So that is one thing. And I see unfortunately many bureaucrats, many just posting nonsense, just to get more likes, more engagement. And I don't think they actually believe in And I have this, many people might not agree, and some of the toppers might get angry about it also. So I really don't like officers, craving for popularity on social media, right? I mean, there is a difference between craving for popularity and some people just sharing their thoughts or maybe good work. So that is a different thing. But there are few people who crave for attention, popularity. So I think other students, aspirants should be. That's what I think. Critical thinking comes into picture here. If a candidate has a critical thinking, they will know whom to follow and whom not to follow, right? So social media largely is a good tool. I don't call it as a double sword or anything. I believe it is a excellent tool for self-empowerment. So we should know how to use it.
That is the case with I feel most things, is it not? That
it
is a good tool.
For my institution, your institution, if somebody knows how to use my institution, my services very well,
yeah,
I think largely they will be happy.
So, sir, like coming to last couple of questions, because we said we'll try and keep it under 60 minutes. So, from your journey of guiding aspirants, what have been the fundamental, results or fundamental driving factors that enable people to be successful here? And what are these factors which are then also applicable for success in life?
Number one reason, what I've noticed in some of these people is that they're very clear about why they want to be in civil services. You cannot change their mind with respect to that. If they come with IFS in their mind, they really know why they want to be in IFS, foreign service. If somebody forest service, they know why they want to be in forest service. Similar with I. And it is unwavering. In a way, there is a strong desire within them, why they want to be. Secondly, the candidates whom I have guided and most of them have been successful, there is a good amount of upbringing, good upbringing. They were exposed to certain, good things in life, maybe reading, good extracurricular activities. So I see a strong correlation between, strong personality development and success in this examination. So third quality, your ability to stay focused, single-minded focus, what we call, without all the distractions. Are you strong enough to just stay focused here? So fourth, the trust factor. I think, once they have trusted, these candidates don't give up on people. I know some of the toppers didn't give up on me. Even, there was, if somebody was trying to create negative image about myself, about me, in their minds, so they wouldn't believe them, right? They would still root for me. They would still stick with me. And it is those kind of people who have become very good friends, students, and, successful in this examination. So trust is very important. Trust what process you are following, whom you are following, which website you are following, which institution you are following. So if you have made a right decision and if you believe that, yes, it is working for you, you should never change the course. So I think this is very important. I think this is one of the important reasons for success in this examination. You might have seen people changing courses, institutions, again and again. It's detrimental. And then I think the last is something related to your ability to do the same thing again and again and again.
That's true.
That nature of hard work sometimes become monotonous, repetitive, might become. So can you do it again and again? Right. And other qualities, self-belief, not to doubt about your ability. Other things, definitely they are there. I think I put these at forefront.
So I think
you might add something, you also might have realized.
I agree with all of those things. I will just try and probably reorder them in a different sense, because personally I hold that it all starts with self-belief, because there are so many candidates that I encounter on a regular basis who come up to me and say, sir, how can I do this? I'm an average student. I'm like, you dared to think about it. Why don't you take a step further and also dare to think that you could possibly do it. I'm not saying today, but if you're not even able to think about the possibility of ever clearing this exam, you're probably not going to clear it. Right? Because anytime there is a risk worth taking, you will sabotage yourself. You will simply tell yourself that, you're not good enough, and you'll not take that risk. And by result, you will not have that success. So I believe it all starts from there, that self-belief. It may be an irrational self-belief. For me particularly, it was very irrational self-belief when I started. I was like, I'm from IIT, I'm smart, ho jayega. Kuch nahi dekha, syllabus nahi dekha, kuch nahi, was like, ho jayega. It got checked very quickly. I failed my first prelims because that sort of an attitude gets you nowhere. But then comes the second aspect of perseverance. That, are you like somebody who's willing to face that challenge and then keep going? Or are you somebody who just like at the first sign of a setback, you're like, oh my God, this is too hard, I'm not doing it. So that fight, flight, freeze, like we have these very fundamental, physiological responses. So I feel the people who have a lot of that, fight wala angle to them, they find a lot more success in this exam. I'm not saying that others don't, but it is more likely that if you are here, you will find that success. Why? Because you will face so many obstacles, so many hurdles for prelims, for mains, for anything that you want to do. And if you're not willing to even fight for what you want to do, then there is no institute out there that can get you to cross the line.
Definitely. In life also, no?
Yeah. Because I think, sir, this is something that has happened, that because of UPSC, I was able to start looking at these fundamental principles. That because of my experience over here, I spent 5-6 years, I struggled, I failed, I succeeded, I failed again, I succeeded again. All of those things happened very fast, very frequently. And because of that, I was able to understand some things that might be also useful and applicable in life in general. So now what I do generally whenever I'm facing a problem is one is a concept called first principles thinking, right? And another is a concept called, comparative analysis. So first principles thinking can be sometimes hard. If you're in a new domain, like for example, we're running UPSCprep.com for the first time. So some of those things can be hard. But what then I tend to do is I try and do a comparative analysis that, what were a similar problem that I was facing in my journey. Can I use some of the principles that I used there to solve this problem? And most of the time I find that journey has taught me so much, not just about the exam, but also about who I am as an individual. Do I fight or do I stop? What kind of, problems do I generally give up at? Because if you know these sorts of things, then it becomes easier for you to, go ahead and improve. Because without improvement, I don't feel, sir, that there is a lot of progress.
You should be craving for, improvement. I mean, this learning mindset is important. You should never think that you are complete. You should keep constantly learning. That's what I think. Behind that element of curiosity should be there. It doesn't matter how much you're successful. Even when you are working on your website, working on a course or something, I think there should be an element of learning. So that is very important.
Right. And so we'll wind up the session, but I would love to hear some kind words from you for our initiative, UPSCprep.com. What have you seen so far? What have you thought about it? Any words, anything that we can do to improve in your estimation?
So I always welcome, I've actually encouraged some of my students to, when they don't get into UPSC, to start their own something, maybe in this field or another field. And, when I noticed that you have done and, it is getting popular, I was genuinely happy. I'm not saying this just for the sake of saying it. And I see lots of struggle, and I can easily sense, what you might have went through when, you got a rank and it didn't materialize, and all the other things, right? So then you put your experience and efforts, and I've heard great reviews about your interview guidance also, and I keep following your funny quotes.
Thank you for that, sir.
That's nicely put, attributing to the famous philosophers and famous people. The people can relate with that. Okay, so that is one dimension where you're freely doing stuff. And another, with respect to your own website, as you said earlier, new ideas you are also trying to come up with. So I think it will be a great success eventually. I don't know the extent of success. We haven't discussed about it. It always begins as a small success. If you're consistent, ideas are new and fresh. And when the students start liking them and, spreading the word about it, it will become, next Byju's or next, I don't know. If you're dreaming in that direction, it could be that.
We are dreaming to help.
Yeah,
I think that is something that I agree with you very fundamentally on, that dreaming of a valuation, dreaming of, growing my business to that level XYZ is not something that is going to get us there.
Then success is guaranteed.
Yeah.
And so wish you all the best. And Krishna's tweets I have seen, and your suggestion. I think there is some kind of similarity in our thinking. So the way we are guiding students, and of course you have your own originality as well.
And thank you for that, sir, because obviously, like I said, even at the beginning of this interview, you learn from the people who have gone before you. And you have been one of the people who went before me in this journey, who thought a lot about what it means. And for having done that, you enabled others like me to learn more. And now it is our duty and responsibility and our, sort of hope that we can do that for others.
Correct. So you will 100% succeed. I'm very sure about it.
Thank you, sir. And
you're already a big name in UPSC now, and even bigger.
Hopefully not, because I think this is something that I realized after I started gaining traction. I used to think, like you were saying, that it would be fun to be popular on social media. But once I started gaining that traction, I realized that exactly like you said, that it is a responsibility. And sometimes I don't want that responsibility. Sometimes there is that part of me which wants to run away from that, being the face, being that, mentor. But then that's what keeps you here, that in the end, you just wanted to help someone. Why don't you just focus on helping one person? The rest, if it's helping somebody else, great. If it's not, fine. We just want to be able to help that one person if we can, because that's where it all starts.
Correct.
Sir, I think we're almost at 60 minutes, but I have one last question for you. I'm sure you've seen a lot of Chat GPT. You've used it and you've played around with it, because I saw you asking questions and you posting some Twitter screenshots. What do you think will be the impact of Chat GPT on the, nature of the exam? Do you think it's going to change in the next 5, 7, 10 years?
Okay, so in the immediate future, what it will do is it will raise the competition, I think. Those who are smart, those who know how to use it, will see great improvement in the way they are writing essays and answers. So it will create a kind of, gap, rich inequality, if we have to say. Those who do not have access to it, I think will suffer. Those who don't know how to use. So in the immediate future, I think next 2 to 3 years, we will see that because capabilities are ever increasing. Those who know how to use, people are trying to find interview answers and questions also with that. So in the long term, I think it will definitely have an impact on the exam, because it will pose great challenge to paper setters, and the nature of questions will be even more uncertain, even more subjective, and even more analytical in nature, right? They will try to bring out original thinking in an aspirant. And I think UPSC is a smart body in that regard. Now, they're always aware about the reality happening on the ground, how students are molded, or kind of trained in particular way. So UPSC is always ahead of us.
I think
it will be ahead of technology as well. The examination will definitely change. Not in terms of the structure of it, but as you said, nature. Nature of questions. Maybe they might include a paper or a new paper, something about abstract writing or something. I don't know. So it will change.
Because I think there was this recent report which said that Chat GPT had failed the prelims 2022 ka paper and XYZ, and I was not surprised at that. I was surprised at the meta reaction that got over social media, that people were so happy that it failed.
No, it indicates that there is an element of critical thinking required in the examination. The Chat GPT cannot do that.
But
you need to.
That's the thing that that's the thing that I then went and played with Chat GPT for a bit, just to figure out what are these questions where it's failing. And most of the time what's happening is that it's not reading the question correctly or something of that sort, and otherwise it's not having any problems, because I feel prelims is a lot about fact and application. Prelims doesn't have a lot of that aspect of analysis. And in such a question, theoretically speaking, on an abstract level, a machine should be able to perform much better. So I was very surprised when it said that 54 out of 200 or 54 out of 100 questions it had marked correctly. So obviously it failed. So I went and checked, and I found that not to be the case, which was again surprising. But then again, social media gets a lot of eyeballs on all kinds of topics. But
people like failures. When big things fail, people like, our society likes to see big things fail big way. That gets lots of traction. They like Adani to fail. They like Modi to fail. I mean, this is how the society is.
They also like an underdog story. Somebody who goes from the bottom and then rises to the top.
Still they become successful. Once they're successful, they want them to again fail.
Just to remind them that they are also human.
Correct. Yes.
So, sir, it's been great talking to you, and thanks for your time.
Thank you for giving this opportunity. Even I enjoyed talking to you. This is a different kind of conversation. We usually don't have with people around us. I hope your followers enjoy this.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully they will
too. All the big success to UPSCprep.com.
Thank you.
I am sure. And so wish you all the best to you and your team members.
Thank you, sir. And I don't really have to wish it, but I do hope and wish success.
So nothing is granted, nothing is permanent.
But just like you have been saying that, 100% sure that I will eventually be successful. I think one of the things that over time you also come to realize about a certain kind of people, which is something that I see a lot in you. That there is this quote that I really, really like from this book called Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. You might have heard of it.
Yeah.
So there is this quote which is, when a wealthy merchant asks Siddharth, what can you do? He says, I can think, I can wait, and I can fast. And I still feel that those are fundamental qualities even in the present day and age. If you can think, if you can wait, and if you can fast, which is something that I can see that you are capable of doing, you'll find success sooner or later, bigger or smaller, but you are the one who has to define it, but you'll do it, and you have found it so far. I do wish that you find greater success or whatever it is that you want to achieve, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is difficult, but I think, as you said, if we stick to these fundamental things, anybody can achieve it. So we hope, we live by these principles, consistently follow them. That's it.
Yes, sir.
So there are so many distractions in the world, we have to keep fighting.
That's endless, right? And I think because we'll keep on talking about something or the other, we'll end the session over here.
Yeah, sure.
So thank you all for watching, and thank you, sir, for being here.